Hey everybody, it's Beerdy here, aka Bruce Lee Central. What's going on, guys? I just want to explain what happened between Bruce Lee, Joe Louis, and Chuck Norris before the filming of Way of the Dragon, or Return of the Dragon as it was called in the US. So, originally, Bruce wanted Joe Louis to play the character Colt in Way of the Dragon, and they agreed actually on the role. But then they had an argument about the actual fight in the movie, and they had a huge disagreement about what no one ever knows. This was between those two only. So, probably something about the fight, who wins, who dies, etc. etc. So, they had a falling out, they couldn't agree, and then because at the time, Chuck Norris and Joe Louis were the two world champions. They were the two most recognized world champions in karate, and Joe Louis was actually the better one because he was the father of modern kickboxing. So he was a real true mixed martial artist, while Chuck Norris was just a karate world champion. So Bruce Lee ended up contacting Chuck Norris and asking him if he wanted to play the role of Colt instead of Joe Louis, because at this time Joe Louis had said no, he didn't want to do it. They had a falling out, they had an argument, and Chuck Norris said, "Well, okay, let's try this." This was Chuck Norris's first movie ever. He didn't know how to act really, but as you can see in the movie, he doesn't have any dialogue at all in The Way of the Dragon. So literally, he has no dialogue at all. So it ended up going to Chuck Norris, and it ended up being a real good choice because the fight between Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee was unscripted. They just went at it. So they just like halfway agreed on what they were going to do. You hit me, you kick me, I hit you, you punch me, etc., etc. And they just took it on the fly. And we got the greatest fighting scene ever in a movie. So it ended up being a good choice. Joe Louis, I bet you he regretted it for a long time because, of course, this started Chuck Norris's career. He became worldwide famous after his movie. So yeah, Joe Louis probably regretted it. So that's the story, guys. And here is the interview on how Bruce Lee met Joe Louis. Enjoy.
In 1968, early 68, I was doing a nightclub act with myself, Bob Wall. Bob Wall was the co-star of that film, Enter the Dragon, and Mike Stone. We were kind of like buddies at that time. As a matter of fact, Bob and I were living together. We were business partners. At the end of each nightclub act, Mike Stone and I would do a little demonstration karate match. And then I noticed his style had changed. And he started telling me he was working out with this Chinese guy named Bruce Lee. And he said, Bruce Lee wants to work with you. You should go down and start taking lessons with him, private lessons with him. So eventually I took his advice, and Bruce Lee and I got in contact with each other. And once a week I would go there and take a private with Bruce and spend the whole rest of the week working on what he would show me. And it actually, in a great way, improved my fighting style. Bruce Lee kind of got me back into the full contact stuff because we studied a lot of old boxing films like Willie Pep, who a lot of Italians feel is pound for pound the best fighter of all time, and some people feel Sugar Ray Robinson is. We'd watch Willie Pep's footwork. We would watch the explosiveness of some of Jack Dempsey's fight films. We watched the stationary positioning of the great Joe Louis when he got on the inside, like in the pocket. We'd watch the distancing and mobility tactics of a Muhammad Ali, and it kind of got me interested in the full contact as opposed to the stationary kind of you hit me, I hit you back, your turn, my turn type fighting. So I got tired and I got kind of really disgusted with what they call point fighting, and so I decided I'm going to go in and create a new sport and just call it full contact.